What is up, everybody? Welcome to Down the Middle, the #1 podcast in the world. My name is Los, and this is Max, and today we're talking about a few special topics. Number one has to be obviously the biggest thing that has happened so far, and that is that Elon Musk actually bought Twitter for $44 billion, which is 5/4/20, right? May 5th, 4/20. The dude trolled his way into buying one of the biggest social media platforms. Now, do you think he's going to just take it like private?
Well, I mean, that's what the offer is. So the offer, it was to take it private, right? So it's essentially if you know, it gets final, once it gets final, I think it's like 3 to 6 months to finalize everything. It's a big transaction, but like once it gets finalized, then essentially all shareholders' stock just gets automatically sold at that price. They get money. And then I think it's the top, I think a private company, it's 2,000. That's what I heard. It's 2,000 shareholders can stay. I think it's the max.
Yeah.
So basically, it's the top 2,000 biggest shareholders are going on the list. If you want to keep your ownership, you can. They also get the option to sell, and then just keeps kind of going down the list of who wants to be a shareholder in it. What is crazy, and then we can talk about just like the benefits of this, what we think about like just long term with Twitter. So the financials of it, I was listening on the road, the drive here, like the kind of economics, how he did it. So he it's like basically half was cash, half is financed. And what's wild is like the fact that he has enough cash to wire like 21, I think it was like 21 billion, like $21 billion just in cash. He's like wiring to like, it's insane. Like it's a staggering amount of money to have, like to call your banker and say, yeah, just need to wire 21
billion.
It's like an unfathomable amount of money, right?
Yeah.
And then, but the other, this is where it gets a little interesting. And this is where it does get somewhat tricky in terms of managing Twitter, is because he obviously doesn't want to sell Tesla stock, right? That most of his net worth is tied up in equity, right? And that's why Tesla has been like tanking the stock, because the risk is like, if he has to unload a ton of stock, right, that impacts the share price. So instead he's just taking out loans, basically margin loan, like against his stock in his different companies for the rest of it. But I think it's like a 4 to 5% interest rate. So like servicing that debt is about like $1 billion a year. So he needs to basically have like $1 billion in cash a year just to pay those loans, which again, like he's worth, hundreds of billions, but still like a billion in cash is a lot of money for anybody, right? Even the richest person in the world. So that leads to the question is like, how does he manage Twitter, right? Like Twitter doesn't make money. Right. It's lost, I think almost $1 billion. And
I don't think he's trying to monetize it at all. And
so the question then becomes like, I think there's two paths, right? One path is he treats this like, the rich people that buy newspapers and stuff, where it's kind of like it's not a vanity play, but like it's like he has his mission and he doesn't care if it makes money. Like, here's my mission. Right. I want to make this protocol. I want to make it open source. I want to make it totally free. I want all, free speech, all stuff. Like, I don't care if advertisers don't give us money. I don't care about any of that. Right. And I'll just, figure out how to pay the $1 billion a year on the debt and fund the company and stuff. Or he, really focuses on making this a very successful business his way, right? Whatever that looks like. Those are the two paths. And I don't know which one's more likely, but that, the $1 billion doesn't go away. He's still got to pay the bank back.
Yeah. I just don't think he has any interest in even monetizing this ever. Cause he doesn't look at it as like, a thing to make money. I think it's all about just unloading free speech and doing whatever with that. Probably adding some features, but like I don't think he's gonna I think he's just bought it to be like, you can't censor people. Yeah, maybe I'm wrong, but like I just as a human, Solar City, Neuralink, I'm the Boring Company that just raised $700 million, Tesla, SpaceX. I mean, what are you gonna do? And I know it's still the vision. It's not like he's actually tickling buttons or anything, but it's still just the vision and the meeting level of like, and now that, like, I don't see it being like first priority. But he's such a troll that maybe it becomes first priority. My big thing is like, how is this going to affect everything else when SpaceX goes public, Tesla stock in general? Because if I don't like what's happening in Twitter, I now like you kind of probably look at him as You're saying I don't like Elon, so like people will sell their stock and it'll fluctuate based off that a lot, I think.
Yeah, I mean, that is the trick, and that's why I personally don't think he goes public with space. I think if Elon's perfect world, all of his companies are private. Like, I think that's his perfect role. I think Jack Dorsey said the same thing. His biggest mistake was was making Twitter a public company, and now it's owned by Wall Street and advertisers, essentially. Because that's your fiduciary duty at that point. Now you have your responsibility is making money for shareholders. Your responsibility no longer is doing what's in maybe the best interest of humanity or the best interest of the product, right?
No, it's returning.
So I don't know, because I agree. I think if all these are public, then it's very, very hard, because now you have multiple massive companies, probably 3-4 of the biggest 100 companies in the world, that are all essentially owned by one guy that's very, very public, that tweets all the time, that says a lot of shit. And like, that can really cause havoc in the stock market. Like, I don't think there's ever been a point in history where one person holds so much influence over economies and markets. Like, he can move crypto markets, he can move stock markets, like he can move these institutions that are worth trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars with tweets, with posts. And that's like insane. That's why people are terrified of him. Like, that's why a lot of people are terrified of him having more control and more ownership, which I think is ironic, because it's, the people that are most terrified are the people that have had the control for basically since inception of America.
Yeah.
Right. And I think it's pretty wild and pretty ironic, but it'll be interesting. I don't, again, it's a big challenge. And the last thing I'll say on the challenge part of it is, like, you have, close to a billion in or $500 million, I think, in payroll. I think it's like 300 million or something like that a year. And you have a lot of employees that seem to be very I don't know if you've seen like some of the leaks that have come out of like internal like Slack messages and stuff. Like, I think it's funny because it seems like the biggest concern that I heard the other day was that people were worried he's going to make them come back to work in person, because he's very like pro in work in office, and like Twitter's been still remote, all the big tech still remote. So that's like their biggest concern, which I think says a lot about the state of working there. The state of our society. If like how privileged, that group of individuals, especially on the left, like love to talk about privilege. You're so privileged, all this shit. It's like the privilege that you have, that's your biggest concern. I
don't want to go to work.
You have a 6-figure tech job working on a social media company where people just shit talk all day. Like, that's what you're building. And you get to work in your pajamas. And you've been working in your pajamas for years.
And you've done no updates in a decade. And you get
stock, you get equity, all these things. And your biggest concern is like,
I'm going to have to actually go to work.
Not that I might lose my job, or not that I might like have to work another job that's not as high paying, but like I'm going to have to go into the office 3 times a week. Like, that's pathetic.
I hope he does. And the people that don't like it quit.
Yeah.
Because there should be so many more people waiting in line for your job.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
The sense of
entitlement.
The sense of entitlement by work, again, like, I think there's a lot of unfair and unsafe and terrible working conditions in certain companies. Right? Like, I think there's a lot of companies out there that like treat their employees like shit and do terrible things. And I think that's wrong. But like these tech companies, these 20-something-year-olds that just got out of college and are making 6 figures a year working on social media apps that like complain all the time. It's like like your parents and grandparents and great grandparents, like the jobs they had to work, the conditions they had to work in, like the salaries they made, the benefits they got. Like, are you shitting me? What you get at Twitter and Google and something, you get your laundry done for you. It's basically like you stayed in college. You're staying at home, like your parents are taking care of you.
There's better restaurants in those campuses than there is in like our neighborhoods.
Yeah. So quit. Right? Just quit. Go get another job.
Yeah,
right?
You're not doing anyone a favor.
No, nobody cares, right? Nobody cares what you say. No. And it's the people now on Twitter. Now the famous thing is just like when Trump was running. It's like, if Trump wins again, I'm going to Canada. Like that's his argument. Now everyone's saying, now that Elon's on Twitter, I'm going to leave Twitter. It's like,
okay, go to Truth.
They're announcing it on Twitter. It's like, then just people are trolling. It's like, just leave. Like, you're still here. Why are you, all these people that keep saying it, tweeting it? Like, like, who cares? Leave Twitter. Nobody gives a shit.
Yeah.
Nobody cares.
It's ridiculous. People think their opinion is so important. But I'm excited for it. I mean, if you think about it, he's never done anything malicious. I don't know why people hate him. He's pretty PG. He just makes funny jokes and like little satire and some witty humor. Like, that's kind of all he does. He's not doing bad shit.
Yeah, I mean, listen, is he an asshole sometimes? Yeah. Like, does he say like things that are, borderline kind of insensitive or like not PC? Yeah, but like to your point, has he done anything like intentionally malicious or like cruel? Like, no, he shit talks, which is what we all do it. The difference is
he's famous.
He's famous and has a massive platform. Like he tweeted that thing of Bill Gates the other day of saying like, if you want to instantly lose a boner, look at this picture.
You know why that was?
Yeah, because Bill Gates is shorting his stock.
Right. And then he wanted to get him to like put money on his nonprofit. And he's like, this is the biggest life-changing company, and you're trying to short it right now because you want me to just give you money.
Yeah.
So they got in a fight.
And I think it's, again, like,
He's just being a real dude.
Yeah, normal people. That's what people, again, it's so crazy that people can't see this. This is what, again, we talk left, right. Like, what the left keeps making mistakes here is, like, instead of doing the research and seeing, like, why is this happening? Why did Trump get elected in the first place? Why is Elon so popular? Like, why are these things happening? They just, like, shit talk. Because they just, like, throw those people out. It's like, we're not even going to try figuring out why you think this way. And that's why they're losing, right? So it's like, why do people resonate with Elon? It's because he seems like a normal dude. He
says what you're thinking.
He says what most people think, and he's just a billionaire. He happens to have a lot more money than a normal person, but he acts like a normal person.
He acts like a normal person.
He doesn't act like a robot. Like, you look at Mark Zuckerberg and these people, like, that's not a human being. Like, he's almost 90%. He's going to come out in 10 years like he was an android the whole time. The first android was,
he looks like one.
Mark Zuckerberg, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, with Bill Gates, like, you're trying to push the entire world to, like, eat healthier and do all these things, and you look like shit. Like,
and you own everything you're trying to push to go eat out at.
Yeah. You're the biggest landowner, like, all these things. Like, that's a fair criticism. If you want to get people to do things, like, lead by example, right? You built Microsoft, you know about leading.
I mean, it's legit a threat. Hey, put money in my thing or I'm going to short your stock. Well, dude, whatever, right?
I'll just post funny pictures of you on my Twitter.
Yeah. Like, that was such a perfect picture too.
It was great with the pregnant man emoji, which is just also equally as ridiculous. But yeah, it's crazy.
Okay. Second topic. What do we got?
So we haven't talked about, we've tried to stay relatively upbeat on the last few episodes, haven't talked much about what's going on in Russia, Ukraine, because frankly, it's been just, continued awfulness, right? It's like not really changing much, and we're not like a show that dives too much into that type of stuff anyway. But I think it's the other day, I think it was yesterday, Anthony Blinken and a few other kind of our representatives basically came out and said, well, first of all, they actually kind of secretly went to Ukraine and visited without telling anybody. And then they basically said, like, their agenda now is to weaken Russia. Like, the new agenda from the United States is to weaken Russia so much as a nation that they can't do anything in the future. And, like, I've read a lot of good articles about this. Like, sure, that can be your secret agenda, but you don't say
don't
that.
Put it out on
right?
PR.
Because, like, just the PR agenda of saying our goal is to defend Ukraine and make sure Russia loses, that accomplishes the same thing. But you're staying to the narrative that everyone else is staying to, which is like, you invaded Ukraine, so we're supporting Ukraine. Like, that's the argument.
Right.
But all they're doing now is, like, feeding Russian propaganda, because this is literally what Putin's been saying since day one. Putin's been saying on state TV since day one that the real goal of the West and the United States is to destroy us, is to weaken us. And we haven't, for the last 2 months, nobody's like, we haven't supported that. We haven't said anything about that. And now we're just, like, publicly saying, like, Biden has now multiple times said, like, we actually want regime change. We want, like, he's he's committed genocide. Like, we're saying all these things. Listen, they definitely are right. Like, we want we don't want Putin in power. Like, he's done horrendous atrocity. Like, these are all realities, but you don't say that. Like, that's what politics isn't is a game, right? Politics is a strategy game, right? So you don't say the things that you're thinking. Like, you do things strategically so you don't feed your enemy. Like, I don't who the people running our country right now when it comes to international relations are just idiots. Like, it makes no sense. There's no strategy there. There's nothing that makes sense about what they're doing or saying publicly. It's just making Putin's hand and position a lot stronger.
It's just embarrassing. I mean, like, the president, everyone around him, like, it almost physically just seems like you woke up and you got, like, quiz real quick and you're like, oh, and you just say whatever. It's like, it's that level of embarrassing. Like, there's no structure, there's no thought process. I don't know who makes their decisions, because it's clearly not them, right? But, like, because even those decisions are ridiculous. So whatever decisions are being made, the way that everything is being said, yeah, I mean, it's the easiest thing now to just show American TV and be like, look at that.
Yeah, they literally said this on TV. We're just going to show it word for word.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, we don't have to even fake it. Like, and they could. Like, Russia has a really good, that kind of aspect of their media of like faking stuff and come at propaganda. Like, they're really good at it. So they
They don't
can,
even have to though.
but they don't even have to now. They can literally just like play. We're going
Yeah.
to play them on CNN or Fox or MSNBC saying this thing that I've been telling you for 2 months.
And that you've
is
been
the
denying,
thing.
which goes back to like everything
they're
you
liars.
always do, which is just lie and then come out with something else.
Yeah. So I don't know what happens there, but it's definitely not good because it's like, at a certain point, the amount of money we're sending to Ukraine, just insane amounts of money and military supplies and training. Like, Russia basically came out yesterday and said, like, you need to stop that. You're like, you're not faking anybody. You're still fighting. Like, we're at war with each other. Like, it's this really weird game we're playing where it's like, because it's not a U.S. soldier shooting a Russian soldier, we're not at war with Russia. Because it's Ukrainians. But it's like the Ukrainians are shooting Russians with our weapons, with using our money. Like, it's this weird game where it's like semantics of like,
They're the dealer.
but yeah, we're essentially like, there's no transparency, like, or no, like, it's not hidden. It's not like a secret agenda. Like,
Right.
we're fighting Russia at war right now. We're at war with Russia
We
right
are
now.
the dealer, the supplier.
And so it's, I think that the threat, the last few days, they've been coming out and saying more and more like, nuclear weapons are on the table. Like, nuclear weapons are on the table. We can use nukes. Like, and not like nukes like Hiroshima, where they're just gonna drop a bomb on like a city, but like tactical nukes at like a military site. And like, that's terrifying. Like,
Bro, and I bet you we both do, they do, and we do, just some real shit to like shut down electronics.
oh yeah,
People don't realize that is where the world ends.
that's the biggest threat.
Everything just goes boop.
The biggest threat to us no longer is nuclear war.
It's nothing.
And most people don't realize this. Like, if we went to war with China or any major superpower today, within an hour, our entire power grid and utility system, gas, all that stuff would be shut down. They all have playbooks because they're all antiquated systems. They're all super outdated systems. They haven't been, renovated or improved over the last few decades. They know exactly how to shut down our power grids. And so as soon as we go to war with anybody, we're going to turn the power off. And what do? We lose power. Like, you can't
There's
use
no society.
social media. You can't communicate. You can't get money. Like, you're done.
Yeah.
Overnight.
Yeah. That is it's the purge. You take out electricity and like the power of connection.
Yeah.
It's a wrap, dude. It's a wrap. Everything just goes dark.
Yeah. Just terrifying.
Yeah. All right. Last one. What do we want? Let's go somewhere happier.
Well, I don't know. The third topic was the China lockdown, which I don't know if that's happier. If you have a happier topic, I'm open.
I started
open to
watching
ideas.
the Elizabeth. What is it?
The
Elizabeth
Dropout. You started watching it.
That show is, dude. She's a great actress, and like that chick was just. I was talking with Laura about it, my wife, and I was just explaining because she likes the Anna Delvey stuff. She's like, man, this chick scammed like $40 million. I was like, babe, this chick scammed like a couple billion. I think like $4 billion. But then Laura was like, well, I mean, maybe she probably just really believed that it was going to work. I was like, no, babe, at some point you are fully committing fraud and you are lying, and you're lying on people's health. Like, I get following like the journey of like, man, we got to make this work. We'll just, finagle it a little. But then there's flat out raising. I think at one point it became financial. It wasn't about like helping.
Yeah, I think in the early days, I think most founders have this vision and this somewhat crazy mindset where you have to be a little crazy to be an entrepreneur, right? It's like, I had this wild idea that I don't necessarily know exactly how I'm going to get there, but I think I can do it, and
and it could change the world.
I have the path, right?
Yeah.
And it can change the world. And you go out there and you raise early money and start building towards it. You quickly you realize though, like, this is too far in the future. We're way far behind.
Right.
And at some point that switch had to go off for her, where she realized, like, we've been at this for years and we still don't have anything close to even a working prototype. Like, and then you're talking, 5 years, 6 years, 8 years, 10 years in, like $700 million in VC funding in, like, you, at that point it becomes fraud. It becomes you're supporting a house of cards. I think, and that's the way I'm not a criminal, so I don't know, but I would assume that most of these financial crimes start that way. They start, you look like Bernie Madoff, you look like these people where it's like,
And then you try to get a little bit more just to fix it.
exactly. So it's slippery slopes. Like Bernie Madoff, it's like, okay, now if we just get, or any Ponzi scheme, like eventually their mindset is, if I get a trade to pay off, it'll all be fine. Like
Right.
I just got to get some of these trades to pay off, and then it won't matter. One big stock, a Tesla or something like that, the 10Xs, 100Xs, whatever it is.
Right.
And I'm going to get some more money. But every additional amount of money you raise, you owe more. It's like it builds until it's
You owe more,
totally
you owe less.
until it's
crazy.
totally unsustainable. And then you just, at that point, you're just like, I need to keep the fraud alive for as long as possible to figure out, it's not even a solution anymore. It's just like hoping, you're pushing the inevitable off, that it's not going to happen.
It blows my mind, though, frankly, the lack of due diligence in like the VC world sometimes too, though. Because at some point, bro, like, I get it. Like, no, I don't. Like, having that much level of money, like, because we would be like, hey, we would have some questions, but we don't have like serious levels of money like that. You know what I mean? They just go in and they're like, yeah, we trust you. No one went in. Hey, check. Let's get a scientist. Let's just get a second opinion real quick. Hey, meet Steve. Let me look at your tech. Nothing.
Well, even
Nothing.
you look at I don't know if you got to the part with Walgreens yet, where she gets Walgreens to finally go in, but like Walgreens brought a lab expert. They brought that guy with them he's like a full-time, he worked for Quest for a decade. Like he was the expert of looking at labs and equipment and stuff.
He said it was good.
And they wouldn't let him in the labs. So like they keep coming up with excuses to not let him in. And then it was like, we just found out that our security ran a check on him, and he worked for Quest for a decade. We think he might be a spy. And like what you had is the CEO of Walgreens and then one of the executives who was really spearheading and championing the project. The guy who was championing it kept saying like, this is how Silicon Valley works. Like this is the future. Like was really pushing. The CEO was like, we need to see it. And they kept pushing and pushing, but she was smart. Like she then would have she brought in, executives from other like grocers and convenience stores and stuff in like at the same time. So they were seeing competition, and then basically said called their bluff and said, you know what, you guys are just like to their face. Listen, you guys, you did some great things with Walgreens over the last, few decades. You're old. You're an old company, and that's okay. You're doing it your way. But we got to go. It's not a good fit. And goes and gets on a plane and has the assistant yell at an address they're going to in front of them. And it was the address for CVS headquarters. So they knew they were going to CVS, whether they actually had it planned or not. And eventually they just caved and said, we need to do it. So she just kept stringing them along and pushing and playing this game, playing hard to get. And eventually they just said, okay, we don't need to see the labs. So they brought this guy, and he's never gotten into the labs, even though they knew they needed to see it.
And that's when you stopped really trying to work on the product and just were living a shady life and trying to live. I guess you were just living the lie, which is just that's why I don't lie. It just gets so complicated.
I mean, the whole Walgreens deal, $120 million, was built, she knew they didn't have a product, and she knew they had to basically play this game to get him in. Yeah. She did it again. I don't understand how the board that she had, the ability to get Rupert Murdoch and these people to invest,
nuts.
I don't know how you got those individuals. And again, like you said, I just don't have the level of wealth, so I don't understand. But if I was writing somebody a check for $20, $50, $100 million, I am sending somebody to your facilities to look at the product.
It's basic. It's just a basic SOP, I would think. Even because if we do it at little levels of investment, wouldn't you do it at the highest?
Yeah.
You just duh. Yeah. You know what I mean?
I wouldn't give somebody $100,000
right
without I would just say on a whim the founder made a good pitch to me and I believe in him. It's
right.
No, I want to
do a demo. Let me see the tech.
Yeah, it's wild.
No, yeah, I don't know. Things are crazy in that show, but it's exciting. It's on Hulu. It's called Dropout if you guys want to watch it. Today's a short one, guys, but next week we're going to be doing something new. We're calling it Down the Middle Taste Testing. So we're going to be tasting either Mr. Beast burgers and giving you a review, or Max has all these energy drinks that he wants us to try. So we're either going to get stuffed or we're going to just be jumping off the walls. Yeah. So either way, stay tuned for that, guys. I am Los. This is Max. Talk to us on Instagram at MaxFin, at Los Hustle. We will see you guys on the next episode.
Bye, guys.
Bye.